Yeah, and then it just kind of ends. All right, hang on, let me fix everything. And when the lamb... Oh, dude, we got to play that fucking jam real quick. We got to play that fucking jam real quick. Hold on. I saw... Wait, where the fuck is this song? The first horse... The second horse is black. What is the name of that song? By Vangelis. Someone help me out. Black Parade? No! Aphrodite's Child. Thank you, Will Neff, for telling me. Yes, dude. Yes! All right, we need to spark this shit up. Have you guys ever heard this album? Vangelis had a rock band called Aphrodite's Child that made a fucking an album about the rapture, and it's fucking hype. And he quotes the Seventh Seal in this. We're gonna let this jam play out, and then I'll talk about the movie. This is an absolute fucking bop. Gotta let this drop. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll talk to you while this plays in the background. So, you just watched a film that's like damn nigh on 100 fucking years old. You watched The Seventh Seal. One thing that's really interesting is Ingmar Bergman for this movie lists Akira Kurosawa as one of his inspirations, which I always thought was really interesting. And he really loved Kurosawa's feudal era Japan period pieces. And so he wanted to do his own version of a period piece for his own culture. And that was The Seventh Seal. Now, what transpired when he was writing it is Ingmar Bergman was going through a really profound crisis because he had a crippling fear of death. You know, the kind of like death anxiety that keeps you up late at night. and leads you to delve deep into religion and philosophy and et cetera, et cetera. And this movie is him expressing kind of
wow, that's very cool.
the same frustration that the knight feels, right? This movie is about one knight's quest to find meaning, facing death in the form of the Black Death after his crusade. And he can't find anything. He cannot find anything. And there are all these kind of different little kind of vignettes in the movie. And some of them are humorous and some of them are dark. But most of them are how people are dealing with kind of their own approaching deaths, and some deal with it with nihilism, and some deal with it by being very utilitarian, like his squire, and some deal with it with hedonism, and the only people that are spared are the ones that kind of look to the future in the family and let death pass over them. Fun fact, Ingmar Bergman and Tarkovsky were both in a hotel, and they knew they were there but refused to meet each other because they had such a deep respect for each other. That is crazy. So this movie, one thing that I find amazing is this movie was shot in 30 days. Hang on one second. This movie was shot in 30 days on a budget of $150,000, which now is probably like 180 million, some roughly. The film was shot very quickly. And one thing that I find really interesting, that great little detail, is the budget for this film was the exact price that the chess set eventually ended up for selling for an auction. So the movie had $150,000 budget, and like 70 years later at auction, the chess set sold for $150,000, which is hilarious. Ingmar Bergman made a bunch of projects with the one actor in that movie, Max von Sydow, the lead, the knight. He was kind of his Toshiro Mifune. Yeah, okay, so I've given you some details about this film, and it's interesting because I think tonally, this movie is always such a problem for me. I've watched this movie 3 times now, and every time I think first of all, the humor in it is really sharp. And I feel like there's almost so much absurdist humor in it that it kind of takes away from the bleak moments. And I think the bleak moments are what really sell this film. Like the things that live with me from this movie are the witch going up on the cruciform, and the Black Plague line marching into town, and the last, obviously, her reading the 7th seal at the end is fucking brutal. But you know what I always find is every time I watch this movie, even though he's an absolute maniac, I always want to hear more from Gunnar Bjornstrand or the Squire, John, because he's just so sharp and he doesn't give a fuck. And he's just so like matter of fact about everything that it's almost kind of endearing. Also, a neat little chess fact. The move is set on the XIV century. It wasn't until the XVI century where the current board was set up. White squares on the right side was universally accepted. A lot of people think the board was set up wrong. Interesting. Okay, chess people. I've always wondered this because I don't know enough about chess. Is the final move checkmate, or does he put him into check and say that the next move is checkmate? Because I've always wondered that, because he goes, I foresee the next move is mate. It's the next move. So he puts him into check and we never see him actually mate him. Interesting. It was mate. Mate in one move. Okay. Got it. Yeah, I've always been like, did he win? Jesus Christ. Someone just put the fucking craziest messages in chat. What the fuck? Absolute lunatic. What the fuck? That's one of the craziest messages I've ever seen put in chat. Holy fuck. Absolute lunatic. What was it? Someone schizo posting about Caroline. Jesus Christ. That was show it? No, that was weird. All right. Back to my Tarse conversation about Ingmar Bergman. Yeah, I like this movie. I've never had my tits blown off by it. And, you know, at first I was kind of ashamed because I feel like it's such an important movie. And at first when I was younger, I think I, thought it was because this movie was dated. But now that I'm older, I enjoy a lot of dated movies. I just think that there's so many things about this movie that like I just want more of his conversation with death. One of my favorite scenes is like when he's confessing to death and death is like, oh, just kidding, bitch. And there's just like so much in this movie that I'm like, just get back to his conversation with death. It feels so extraneous. Like the whole scene with the fucking blacksmith just feels so dated. Like I get it's a period piece, but just like the statement, like, women can't live with them, can't live without them, might as well fucking murder them. Just is like, huh? What am I supposed to get from this? What is Ingmar trying to say to me? No, but I think it's a movie that is certainly worthwhile watching. And when you talk about like quintessential film class films, I would say this movie is probably on as many film school curriculums as any other film ever. Like this is probably in every single fucking Film 101 with like Metropolis and like The Somnambulist. You know what I mean? It's like on that short list of 10 movies that like you have to watch in order to understand cinema. Citizen Kane, The Seventh Seal, Fritz Lang, Metropolis. Like there's like 10 movies that are like the Catcher in the Rye of movies. You know what I mean? And I'm glad you guys saw this movie. I'm glad you guys saw this movie because now a lot of you can say that you've seen it. How many of you watched it for the first time tonight? One's in chat. All right, cool. Yeah, I very much consider this to be a medicine film, a vegetable film. It is enormously impressive what they were able to accomplish with, I think the equivalent would be like $1 million in 1957 in 30 days. Like the movie is amazingly lean for what it is able to accomplish. I think for the time, the nihilist conversation was not one that was as comfortable to have as it is now. You know, now you can go up to any old fucking jack off in a coffee shop and go, God is dead. The end is black. And they'll be like, yeah, man, I know what you're talking about. You want a triple latte? But in 1957, I think there was way more pushback to that kind of like almost heresy, right? This movie certainly has a heretic feel to it. And I think that's why Bergman kind of like disguises it ever so slightly under this veil of like mysticism and religion and, oh, where is God? Oh, you can't speak to him, but death is here. Ooh, dancing the dance. You know what I mean? It's one artist expressing his frustration with the frivolity of life. And I kind of like, as I sit with this movie more and more, I love that even though this film is like a deep confession of a man raging against the dying of the light, he still has a chance to work in humor at the absurdity of life and the absurdity of all of these little things that make up our life. And you know, the absurdity of having a wife or a partner, and the absurdity of investing into a religion, and the absurdity of anything really. But at the end, the only people that escape are the ones that commit themselves to love, which I always find very endearing. That Bergman is obviously a nihilist. He's obviously like, death is the end. It all goes black. There's no escaping. You can't cheat death. And then at the very end, he's like, but a family would be nice. But that would be nice. A child. I like that. It's not all bad. It's not all bleak. Anyway, you know, as I said, do I...
That's for cool.
As the #1 DC Comics fan on Twitch,
Sure.
have you seen this before?
Have I seen this? What if Ingmar Bergman directed The Flash?
En Flash. En bara ett ögonblick. Det proxys mir alven colibre dondia harta. Det är allt vi har. Ensam jag kan kanalisera hastigheten, kraft och kora. Korsnavare an ljudets hastighet. Alvlus, alvgod. Men en dag jag kommer att kora mer, och på den dagen jag kommer att bli ett med din hastighet kraft, en med min skapare. Min twivel frossa mina bin sum in visknig från kapten kallas kalla vapen. Din kryper i medicin med apespänstamnig av gorillagrad. Jag flyter snart, min på natten. När jag somnar, förbi man drömmen min egen. Jag är världens snabbaste man. Men till och med jag inte kan springa ifrån den iskalla handen dödens.
There's
Tala
more.
om för mig vad som plagar dig.
Dina ord är för långsamma. Fångas i en enkel paradox. Är jag för fort eller inte tillräckligt snabb? Jag är bara en mun. En flosch.
That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. That was one of the greatest things I've ever beheld with my eyes. All right. I am going to send you over to Caroline Kwan. I'm going to be playing games with she and I think Sam later on. Thank you for joining me for film night. I wasn't going to stream tonight because I was exhausted, but I pulled it together for you guys because I know you love film night. So with that being said, thank you for joining us. I hope you had a wonderful time. I'll be playing some games with Caroline. Go please please give her the same love and respect that you give me. Have a wonderful evening. Stay dangerous. Will Neff, what was your intro from the start of the stream? What was the intro from your start of the stream? Don't stop believing, and then and then my intro graphic. Oh, New Radicals. You get what you give. All right, y'all. See you later. I'm falling apart.
Horsemen